Birds of the world, birds of Denmark. Here in the far north, where mist rolls over quiet lakes and sunlight lingers in silver air, beauty doesn't shout, it glides. Denmark may be small, but its skies hold some of the rarest and most beautiful birds in Europe. Creatures of color, song, and mystery that most travelers never see. From the white flames of the Mute Swan to the shadowed wings of the Eurasian Eagle-Owl, this is a land where every feather tells a northern story. Some birds dance above the wetlands, painting the air with light. Others rule the forest with silence sharper than any storm. And together they form one of the most delicate ecosystems in all the bird world, where survival looks like poetry and flight feels like faith. So here's the question. If nature still writes its finest music in the quiet places, are we listening? Because tonight, Denmark's wings will answer, in a language older than words and far more beautiful than sound. You ever notice how the quiet ones are always the ones you should actually be afraid of? Meet the Mute Swan, elegant, snow white, calm as a royal portrait until you step a little too close. Then suddenly you're in a Disney movie that's one wing beat away from becoming a horror scene. This bird doesn't scream for attention. It owns attention. 6 feet of wingspan, muscles like a linebacker, and a stare that says, "You sure about that, human?" In Denmark, they're everywhere, drifting across still lakes like floating crowns. They look peaceful, but make no mistake, they're not gentle. They're just majestic enough not to care about your opinion. Here's the twist. The Mute Swan isn't actually mute. It hisses, grunts, and even growls when defending its nest. So yeah, the mute part is marketing. Kind of like calling Texas weather mild, but behind all that attitude is devotion. Pairs mate for life, literal lifelong loyalty. When one dies, the other may stay near the body for days, sometimes refusing to eat. Romantic? Maybe. Tragic? Definitely. Danish poets have written about that loyalty for centuries, because love that's stubborn deserves a verse. Fun fact, the Mute Swan was once a royal bird, property of the Danish crown itself. Back in the day, harming one could get you fined or worse. Imagine needing permission from the king to annoy a swan. That's not wildlife. That's nobility with feathers. And here's a little mini debate for you. If grace can turn violent and silence can roar, which one's more powerful? The loud leader or the quiet ruler? Because this bird doesn't just swim, it glides like it knows you're watching. And maybe it's mocking us a little for thinking beauty ever needed to be gentle. So next time you see a mute swan, try not to call it peaceful. Call it what it is. Denmark's most beautiful threat. Ever met someone who thinks volume equals importance? That's the Whooper Swan. Basically the mute swan's loud, extroverted cousin who believes every lake is a stage and every echo is applause. While the Mute Swan glides in silence like a diplomat, the Whooper Swan announces itself from miles away. Its call, deep, clear, trumpet-like, can roll across a Danish fjord like fog with attitude. It doesn't ask to be heard, it demands it. And maybe that's kind of refreshing. In a world full of quiet beauty, here comes a bird saying, "Nah, elegance can shout too." You'll spot them migrating in grand V-shapes, flying from Iceland or Scandinavia to Denmark's gentler waters. They travel in tight families, parents up front, youngsters in line, like a feathery road trip convoy with zero GPS and perfect coordination. Every wing beat sounds like teamwork in motion. Here's the fun twist. These birds can recognize each other's voices, not faces, voices. Each Whooper Swan has a unique sound, a personal note in the Northern orchestra. Scientists tested them and found mates can pick each other out from a crowd just by call. Now that's commitment, or maybe codependency with feathers. Fun fact, despite being massive, over 5 feet long, they can take off from the water in just a few strides. Imagine a grand piano suddenly deciding to fly. It's clumsy at first, then somehow perfect. The takeoff noise alone sounds like thunder learning rhythm. And here's your mini debate hook. If grace can whisper and power can sing, which one moves you more? Quiet perfection or unapologetic passion? Because the Whooper Swan isn't here to be polite. It's here to be heard. It doesn't just fill Denmark's wetlands with sound, it fills them with presence. And maybe deep down, that's what we all want. Not just to exist, but to echo. So next time someone says beauty is quiet, point them toward the Whooper Swan and tell them to bring earplugs. Ever try to sit still for more than 30 seconds? Yeah, the gray heron just laughed at you. While we humans panic if our Wi-Fi takes 5 seconds to load, this bird can stand in knee-deep water for hours. Motionless, zen, unbothered, and absolutely deadly. No sound, no twitch. Just focus so sharp it could slice through fog. It's the marshland monk of Denmark. Tall, elegant, and wrapped in gray like it came straight from a watercolor painting. That long neck isn't for show. It's a loaded spring. The moment a fish ripples below, snap. Lightning disguised as patience. And that's the joke, right? We call it boring because we can't handle stillness. But the heron? It's running a masterclass in self-control while we're refreshing Instagram. Here's the twist. They hunt mostly alone, but they nest in noisy colonies called heronries, like introverts forced to live in an apartment block. Every tree filled with statues that occasionally scream at each other, majestic and mildly chaotic. Fun fact, herons have special shoulder bones that let them fold their necks into that iconic S-shape mid-flight. Aerodynamic efficiency meets pure visual poetry. When one glides across a Danish lake at dawn, it's not flying, it's floating through time. Mini debate hook. If patience always wins, why are we still sprinting? The heron's been catching breakfast the same way for centuries. Slow, precise, perfect. While we're on our 5th cup of coffee trying to manifest results. Maybe that's the lesson. Silence isn't weakness. Stillness isn't laziness. It's just a different kind of power. The kind that strikes once and never misses. So next time you rush through your morning, picture a gray heron, calm, focused, slightly judging you from across the pond. And ask yourself, who's really winning here? You ever meet someone who looks odd at first glance, but then somehow pulls it off? That's the Eurasian spoonbill. Elegance by accident, class by confidence. Let's be honest, this bird's got a weird face. That long, flat, spoon-shaped bill looks like nature's joke, as if evolution ran out of ideas halfway through and said, let's make it work. But guess what? It does work. Perfectly. The spoonbill wades through Denmark's shallow wetlands, sweeping its bill side to side like it's tasting the water. Tiny fish, shrimp, insects, all caught with that golden utensil. It's not just feeding, it's fine dining, Nordic style. And when they gather in groups, all dressed in white with crests fluttering in the breeze, they look like ballerinas who just happened to eat mud. It's awkward, beautiful, and weirdly mesmerizing, kind of like watching a flamingo at a business meeting. Here's the twist. That silly bill is engineering genius. It's loaded with vibration sensors that can feel prey even in murky water. They don't see food, they sense it. So yeah, laugh all you want. This funny face is outfishing every beauty queen in the marsh. Fun fact, during breeding season, their snowy feathers glow with a subtle golden wash around the neck. Sunlight catching on royalty that never asked for your approval. They even display by raising those bills skyward, like saying, "Behold! I am fabulous and practical mini debate hook." So what's the real definition of beauty? Symmetry or success? Because while we scroll filters, the spoonbill's living proof that useful ugly beats pretty useless every single time. It doesn't care about looking perfect. It just keeps sweeping, glowing, and thriving. A spoon-turned crown in the quiet Danish marshes. So yeah, go ahead and giggle at the beak. The spoonbill's too busy eating better than you to notice. You ever meet someone who has to make an entrance? That's the European roller, Denmark's flying fireworks display. While most birds try to blend in with the landscape, this one looked at camouflage and said, "Hard pass. Electric blue wings, chestnut back, black-tipped feathers. It's like a tropical parrot lost its passport and ended up in Scandinavia." and somehow it makes the gray northern skies look like a fashion runway. Watch one hunt and you'll see why they call it a roller. It dives, spins, and somersaults through the air like it's auditioning for Cirque du Soleil. Those aerial flips aren't random. They're love letters. Yep, that's how it flirts. Other birds sing. This one performs aerial acrobatics that scream, "I look good and I know it." Here's the twist. The roller's beauty nearly got it killed. Back in the 1800s, collectors hunted them for feathers, and egg thieves targeted their nests for trophies. By the late 20th century, they vanished from much of Northern Europe. But then, conservationists stepped in. Now they're slowly returning, painting the sky again, one blue streak at a time. Fun fact, European rollers are power couples. Both parents share nest duties and raise their young with equal effort. True partnership. No gender roles, just teamwork and flair. Because when you're that fabulous, equality is the only rule that fits. Mini debate hook. Would you rather live quietly and go unnoticed, or burn bright enough to risk being remembered forever? The roller doesn't hide. It claims the sky. And maybe that's the point. Beauty that costs something is the kind that matters. So next time you see a flash of turquoise slicing across a Danish summer sky, don't blink. That's not a bird passing by. That's confidence, mid-flight. You ever see someone walk into a room 5 feet tall but acting like they own the place? That's the European goldfinch. Small bird, main character energy. Let's start with the outfit. Bright red face, golden wing stripes, sleek black and white contrast. It's basically nature's way of saying, go ahead, try to ignore me. Even the sparrows stare like, who invited this diva? But the goldfinch doesn't care. It sings constantly, with a light melodic chatter that sounds like joy bottled up and poured over a summer morning. That song isn't background noise, it's a soundtrack to optimism. When Denmark feels gray, this bird drops the remix. Here's the twist. This little performer was once trapped and sold across Europe for its voice. People literally kept them in cages just to hear their music. Imagine being born free only to become someone's Spotify playlist. Thankfully, laws changed, and now the goldfinch sings only for the open sky, not for applause. Fun fact, they're also engineers in disguise. Their nests are soft masterpieces, cups woven with moss, spider silk, and down. Tough enough to handle wind, yet delicate as lace. Tiny home design, HGTV wishes. Mini debate hook. So what's freedom worth? Safety behind bars or risk with a song? The goldfinch made its choice. It chose air over comfort, melody over control. Watch one perch on a thistle stem, feeding with precision, gold wings flashing in the breeze. It's like happiness that refuses to sit still. And maybe that's the real reason people fell in love with it. Not because it's rare, but because it's relentlessly alive. So next time you wake up grumpy, remember, this 2-ounce singer greets the cold Danish wind with jazz-level confidence. If a bird that small can belt out joy for free, what's your excuse? You ever meet someone who's way too confident for their resume? That's the Great Tit, Denmark's smallest know-it-all. Bright yellow belly, black head like a little helmet, and the personality of someone who's read half a self-help book and now thinks they're a life coach. This bird doesn't just chirp, it lectures. It'll scold predators, chase off rivals twice its size, and then sing like it just solved world peace. Here's the thing, it might have earned the ego. The Great Tit is one of the smartest songbirds in Europe, known for over 70 different vocalizations. That's 70 ways to say, hey, get lost, dinner's ready, and probably, I told you so. And it learns new sounds, fast. Researchers gave them puzzles involving string, levers, and hidden food. They figured it out like tiny feathery engineers, then immediately taught their friends. We call that culture. They call it Tuesday. Mini debate hook. If intelligence means adaptability, does that make the Great Tit smarter than us? Or just better at ignoring nonsense? Here's the twist. These birds can read danger like professionals. They change their calls depending on what predator appears. A special hawk alert tone, a different snake nearby note. It's like they're running a neighborhood watch with wings. Fun fact, they even understand human logic. When researchers place food in transparent boxes, great tits learn to open lids, memorize colors, and return later. Meanwhile, we still forget our Wi-Fi passwords. Watch one hop through a Danish garden, fearless and efficient, testing everything, eating anything, talking non-stop. They're loud, confident, and just a bit too self-assured, kind of like us on caffeine. So here's your closing challenge. If a bird that weighs less than a chocolate bar can solve problems, lead its flock, and sing 70 songs, what's your excuse for being too tired to learn something new? The great tit doesn't wait for inspiration. It invents it. One chirp, one discovery, one look what I just did moment at a time. And honestly, maybe we all need a little more bird-brain confidence. You ever meet someone who turns every simple project into a masterpiece nobody asked for? That's the Eurasian penduline tit, Denmark's tiniest overachiever with the patience of a monk and the commitment of a full-blown perfectionist. While most birds slap together a few twigs and call it home, this little maniac weaves a hanging nest so perfect it could win a Scandinavian Design Award. Made from plant fibers, cattail fluff, and spider silk, it swings like a teardrop under the reeds. Soft, aerodynamic, and basically IKEA's dream product. Except unlike IKEA, the bird doesn't need an instruction manual or 3 hours of swearing to build it. And get this, it zippers the entrance shut when it leaves. Yeah, a bird invented the zipper. Tell that to your overpriced backpack. Mini debate hook. At what point does dedication become obsession? Because this bird spends weeks crafting a nest just for one season, and sometimes it doesn't even get used. Imagine renovating your whole house, then moving out because the vibe wasn't right. Here's the twist. Both males and females build nests, but they sometimes lie to each other, pretending the nest is finished to impress potential mates. Yep. Even in bird world, people fake their resumes. The ultimate fake it till you make it strategy. Fun fact, their nests are so intricately insulated that early scientists once mistook them for cocoons of some unknown giant insect. That's how alien they look. Living art, not architecture. Watch one bounce delicately from reed to reed, stitching fibers, with its beak like a tailor running late for Fashion Week. It's precision, art, and madness, all in one puff of feathers. So here's your closing challenge. If a bird that weighs less than a ping pong ball can design, engineer, and furnish a luxury apartment in the wind, what's your excuse for not finishing that weekend DIY shelf? The penduline tit doesn't just build a nest, it builds a statement. Because in Denmark, even the smallest bird knows, if you're gonna make something, make it worth showing off. You ever meet someone so weird they circle back to being cool again? That's the bearded reedling, Denmark's most adorable misfit, half mustache, half attitude, and 100% unbothered. With its tiny round body and gray head, the male sports 2 black mustache stripes that make him look like he's auditioning for a bird version of Top Gun. He's got the look, the confidence, and the vibe of someone who says, "Trust me," right before chaos happens. These birds live deep inside the reed beds, an entire social world hidden in waving golden grass. They're chatty, loud, and cling together like a feathery sitcom cast. Their call, a sharp metallic ping, like someone flicking a wine glass and shouting, "I'm fabulous." Mini debate hook. We always say blend in to survive, right? Well, the reedling clearly didn't get that memo. It thrives by standing out. Loud, flashy, social, and somehow it works. Here's the twist. Their world changes with the season. In summer, they eat insects. Come winter, they switch to seeds. That may not sound impressive until you realize most birds can't do that. Their gut literally rebuilds itself to handle a new diet. Meanwhile, we struggle to handle 1 week of kale smoothies. Fun fact, they're hopelessly social. If a lone bird gets separated, it panics until it finds the group again. They huddle at night to keep warm, chatting and grooming each other like it's a reed bed sleepover. It's sweet, chaotic, and a little too relatable. But don't be fooled by the fluff. They move fast, fly low, and vanish in a heartbeat. You might hear them before you ever see one. A mystery wrapped in sound and motion. So here's your challenge. If being different is what makes you stand out, why do we spend so much time trying to fit in? The bearded reedling doesn't copy trends, it creates them. Because in the wild, just like in life, the weird ones don't just survive, they steal the spotlight. Ever meet someone who literally can't sit still? That's the White Wagtail, Denmark's tiniest workaholic, running late to nowhere and loving every second of it. You'll spot it almost anywhere. Roadsides, fields, rooftops, even parking lots. Tail bouncing up and down like it's powered by caffeine. That tail never stops. Scientists say it helps with balance or signals friendliness. I say it's just having an existential crisis, rhythmically. This bird doesn't walk, it performs. Every step looks choreographed, every turn a dramatic flourish. If Beyoncé were a bird, she'd be a wagtail, small, dazzling, and completely allergic to boredom. Mini debate hook. We call people flighty like it's an insult. But maybe the wagtails got it right. Why stay still when the whole world's moving? Here's the twist. This restless dancer actually has discipline. It follows grazing animals or tractors, snatching insects stirred up from the ground. It's opportunism in motion, turning chaos into strategy. Even in human cities, they've adapted perfectly, building nests under bridges or in machinery gaps. While we complain about change, they turn it into choreography. Fun fact, every spring, Danish wagtails migrate all the way from Africa, thousands of miles, and still show up like they never left. No GPS, no drama, just vibes and direction. Try complaining about your commute now, and when they return, they bring energy back to empty landscapes. A flash of white against mud, a symbol of motion itself. They wag, dart, and flick until even the wind gives up trying to catch them. So here's your challenge. If the secret to joy is movement, what's stopping you from dancing through your own chaos? Because the white wagtail doesn't meditate, doesn't overthink, doesn't wait for permission. It just moves, fearless, tireless, beautifully restless. And honestly, maybe Denmark's smallest dancer is trying to tell us something simple. Life's too short to stand still when the beat's this good. You ever meet someone who looks completely harmless and then find out they've got issues? Yeah, that's the red-backed shrike, Denmark's cutest psychopath. From a distance, it's a picture of innocence. Soft rust red back, gray head, black eye mask like a tiny superhero. You'd think it's out here singing love songs to the summer sky. But get closer, and you'll find its dinner pinned to a thorn. That's right. This adorable little bird impales its prey like a medieval villain. Beetles, frogs, mice, even small birds, all lined up on a thorny larder, waiting to be eaten later. It's basically a nature documentary directed by Quentin Tarantino. Mini debate hook. So what do we call that? Cruelty or strategy? Because the shrike doesn't kill for fun. It's building a pantry. Horrifying? Sure. Efficient? Absolutely. Here's the twist. Despite the reputation, it's an incredible parent. Both mates share feeding duties and guard their nests fiercely, even attacking crows 10 times their size. That's not malice. That's passion with talons. Fun fact, the shrike's mask isn't just for style. It reduces glare from the sun. Think of it as built-in sunglasses for a professional assassin. Practical, fashionable, terrifying. But beyond the dark humor, there's something weirdly human here. It plans ahead. It adapts. It even uses its thorny collection to teach younger birds how to hunt, like a feathery mob boss passing down the trade. Watch one perched on a wire, head tilted, scanning the field with laser focus. It's small but intense, all calm on the outside, chaos waiting to happen. The kind of bird that says, I don't start fights, I finish them. So here's your challenge. If survival means doing what others won't, are you ready to get your feathers dirty? Because the red-backed shrike isn't evil, it's efficient. And in a world where beauty gets you nowhere without brains, this little predator is proof that sometimes the nicest smile hides the sharpest thorn. You ever meet someone who needs everyone to know they're working hard? That's the great spotted woodpecker, Denmark's loudest overachiever. It doesn't chirp, it doesn't sing, it drums. That rapid-fire rat-tat-tat-tat you hear echoing through the forest? That's not random. That's performance. The woodpecker's saying, I'm here, I'm busy, and yes, you're welcome. With its black and white jacket, red belly, and that fiery red nape, it looks like it showed up to nature's concert already dressed for the encore. It doesn't hide. It headbangs for a living. Mini debate hook. We call it annoying when someone's loud about their passion, but what if the noise is just proof they're alive? Here's the twist. That hammering sound isn't just for finding food, it's communication, territory, romance, rivalry, all broadcast through tree trunks like a forest-wide Wi-Fi network. And the crazy part? They slam their heads into wood up to 12,000 times a day at 15 miles per hour and somehow don't get a concussion. Meanwhile, we pull a muscle looking at our phones wrong. Fun fact, the woodpecker's brain is cushioned by special shock-absorbing bone structures. Its tongue even wraps around its skull to protect it. That's right, its face has better safety features than your car. But here's where it gets real. The great spotted woodpecker isn't just making noise. It's creating opportunity. Every hole it drills becomes a future home for owls, tits, and bats. Its chaos builds community. So next time you hear that relentless drumming in a Danish forest, don't roll your eyes. Take notes. Persistence might sound noisy, but it builds the world piece by piece. Closing challenge. If progress made sound, would yours echo or whisper? Because the woodpecker doesn't chase perfection. It pounds on it until it answers. And honestly, that's a rhythm worth keeping. You ever meet someone who talks too much, but somehow always gets their way? That's the Eurasian jay, Denmark's most charming scam artist in feathers. Let's start with the look. Pastel pink body, electric blue wing patches, slick black crest. It's got the style of a luxury influencer and the attitude of someone who's been kicked out of the forest PTA twice. And of course, it's loud. Not just, I have opinions loud. More like, I have many opinions and you're going to hear all of them. Loud. This bird doesn't just mimic other calls. It weaponizes them. It can imitate hawks to scare smaller birds away from food. Yeah, fake news, but make it natural. Meanwhile, the jay swoops in, steals the buffet, and leaves the scene looking fabulous. Mini debate hook. So what's smarter, being honest and hungry or sneaky and full? Because the jay clearly picked a side. Here's the twist. Behind all that attitude is genius. The Eurasian jay can remember the location of thousands of acorns it hides every year, each buried under leaves, snow, or soil. Months later, it finds them again with surgical precision, and the ones it forgets, they grow into new oak trees. That's right, the loudmouth of the forest is also its gardener. Talk about accidental legacy. Fun fact, jays use theory of mind, a rare trait, meaning they can guess what other birds are thinking. If they feel watched while hiding food, they'll pretend to bury one acorn while secretly stashing another. That's deception with style. But maybe that's why the jay feels so human. Loud, clever, vain, generous when it feels like it. A walking contradiction that somehow keeps the forest running. So here's your challenge. If manipulation could save your future, would you still call it wrong? Because the Eurasian jay doesn't follow the rules. It writes them in bold blue ink across the Danish woods. And when it flies off, laughing, the forest just sighs, because every good ecosystem needs a little drama. You ever notice how real power never asks to be respected? That's the white-tailed eagle, Denmark's flying definition of authority. When this bird shows up, the sky literally clears a path. Gulls scatter, crows shut up, ducks suddenly remember they've got places to be. It doesn't roar, it doesn't chase, it just exists, and the world rearranges itself. With a wingspan stretching nearly 8 feet, it's Europe's largest eagle, a tank with feathers. It doesn't hunt in chaos, it glides in slow, deliberate silence, scanning for weakness. When it strikes, it's over before the wind knows what happened. No wasted motion, no second chances. Mini debate hook. We call humans the apex predators. But when was the last time you commanded respect without saying a word? Here's the twist. Not long ago, Denmark almost lost its king. The white-tailed eagle vanished in the early 1900s. Hunted, poisoned, erased from the skies. For decades, silence replaced its cry. Then conservationists stepped in. Today, the eagle is back, rebuilding territories across the coasts and lakes. A living comeback story in slow motion. Fun fact, these eagles are surprisingly gentle parents. They build enormous nests, sometimes used for decades, and share food and care equally. So yeah, the ruthless hunter also has family values. Turns out even apex predators pack lunchboxes. Watch one soar over a Danish fjord, broad wings steady against the wind, tail gleaming white like the last page of a saga. It doesn't need to prove it's strong. It just reminds the sky who owns it. So here's your challenge. If dominance is real strength, why does the eagle never brag? Maybe true power isn't loud. It's calm, focused, unbothered. Because the white-tailed eagle doesn't chase trophies. It defines them. And when it lands on a cliff edge, staring down at the sea, even the wind seems to whisper, "Your Highness." You ever notice how people say they're not afraid of the dark, but always leave a light on anyway? Yeah, the Eurasian Eagle-Owl sees right through that. Literally, those eyes, deep orange, burning like twin lanterns, aren't just decoration. They're night vision goggles built by evolution itself. While we stumble into furniture, this bird can spot a mouse twitching in moonlight from half a football field away. And when it moves, it's pure stealth. No sound, no warning, just the air shifting, and then nothing. This is the largest owl in Europe, with wings wide enough to blot out stars. It doesn't fly, it haunts. And here's the fun part. It doesn't fear humans, but humans used to fear it. Old Danish folklore called it a messenger of death, a ghost bird. Villagers once hid when they heard its deep hoo, 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 thinking it carried omens. Turns out it was just ordering dinner. Mini debate hook. We label what we don't understand as scary, but who's really in the dark here? Them or us? Here's the twist. The eagle owl is not a monster. It's a perfectionist. It builds its nest on cliffs or ruins, raising chicks with fierce tenderness. Both parents hunt, share food, and defend their territory like royal guardians of silence. Fun fact, its feathers are built like noise-canceling technology, serrated edges that break airflow and erase sound. That's right. The original stealth bomber wore feathers, not metal. Meanwhile, our techs still can't fly half as quietly. Watch one perched on a stone ledge at dusk. Unmoving, all patience and calculation. You can almost feel it thinking, you fear the dark because you don't listen to it. So here's your challenge. If darkness didn't scare you, would you see more or less? Because the eagle owl doesn't fight the night. It owns it. And maybe that's the lesson Denmark's midnight skies whisper to anyone still awake. The bravest thing you can do sometimes is turn off the light. Ever wonder why silence feels louder at night? That's when the tawny owl starts talking. Forget the spooky movie soundtracks. This bird is the soundtrack. That deep, rolling hoo-hoo-hoo drifting through the forest. It's not meant to scare you. It's a conversation you were never invited to. Smaller and rounder than its cousin, the eagle owl, the tawny's got those soft brown feathers that melt right into bark. You won't see it. You'll feel it. It's the ghost of the woods, moving between branches without a whisper. Because where the big owl rules by fear, the tawny rules by knowing everything. Every rustle, every breath, every secret the night forgets to hide. Mini debate hook. We say curiosity killed the cat, but maybe curiosity's what keeps the owl alive. Here's the twist. These birds mate for life. Once they pair up, they defend the same patch of forest together, year after year. If one dies, the other often keeps calling for weeks, as if trying to summon them back. It's haunting and heartbreakingly loyal. Fun fact, Tawny owls can locate prey using sound alone, even when it's buried under snow or leaves. Their ears aren't symmetrical, one's higher than the other. That's not a defect. That's surround sound. They can literally triangulate a mouse's heartbeat in the dark. Meanwhile, we still lose the remote on the couch. But beyond the science, there's something poetic here. The tawny doesn't chase drama, it listens, waits, strikes once, and somehow it always knows when. So here's your challenge. In a world screaming for attention, could you ever win by staying quiet? Because the tawny owl doesn't tweet, post, or perform. It watches, it waits, and when it speaks, the whole forest listens. Maybe wisdom isn't about being loud. Maybe it's about knowing when not to be. You ever meet someone who wakes up too happy in the morning? That's the Eurasian skylark, the bird that treats sunrise like a personal concert. While we're smashing alarm clocks and mumbling 5 more minutes, this little sky singer rockets straight upward, shouting joy like it's paid by the note. No warm-up, no hesitation, just liftoff and lyrics. It doesn't perch to sing. It sings while flying, wings beating, body trembling, voice carrying across open Danish fields. One tiny heartbeat fueling a song that can last 5 full minutes midair. That's not performance. That's pure happiness refusing to land. Mini debate hook. When was the last time you celebrated something for no reason? The skylark does it every single morning. Here's the twist. Its voice isn't just noise, it's navigation. Farmers once used its song to predict weather. If the lark sang high and long, clear skies followed. If they stayed low, rain was on the way. Nature's earliest weather app, subscription-free. Fun fact, the skylark inspired poetry across centuries. Shakespeare, Shelley, even Danish writers compared its song to the soul breaking free of gravity. In wartime, soldiers wrote home about its voice, saying it sounded like hope itself, hovering above the smoke. And maybe that's the real magic. The skylark isn't showing off. It's reminding us that joy can still exist even when the ground looks bleak. It rises, sings, and falls. Not to be famous, not to impress, but because it can. Because the sky's right there and silence is boring. So here's your challenge. If a 2-ounce bird can find time to sing before breakfast, what's your excuse for skipping gratitude? The Eurasian skylark doesn't wait for perfect moments. It creates them, one fearless song at a time. And maybe that's Denmark's quiet morning secret. The happiest hearts are the ones that just start singing. You ever meet someone who's beautiful, loud, and totally aware of it? That's the northern lapwing, the bird that makes extra look effortless. With its shimmering green-purple wings, sharp black crest, and tendency to shout at anything that moves, the lapwing is basically nature's diva. It doesn't just fly, it performs aerial chaos. Flips, dives, and sudden twists midair, all while yelling like a car alarm with feathers. It's not a flight pattern, it's a show. Mini debate hook. We call people dramatic when they make noise. But what if drama is just another word for confidence? During breeding season, the lapwing turns Denmark's meadows into open-air theaters. Males show off for females with wild acrobatics, rolling and crying out in what can only be described as a "look at me, I'm fabulous" mating dance. And honestly, it works. Here's the twist. Behind all that flair is fierce protection. Lapwings defend their nests like soldiers, dive-bombing predators, foxes, even humans who wander too close. That theatrical cry? It's not vanity, it's a warning. You're in my airspace. Fun fact, the lapwing's Latin name, vanellus, means little fan, a nod to the whooshing sound of its wings when it swoops. Ancient farmers in Europe believed those calls brought luck and rain. Today, their presence still signals healthy farmland, a sign the wetlands are alive. But population declines across Europe show their acts getting harder to keep on stage. Fewer wetlands, fewer lapwings. And without that wild cry, the meadows go quiet, and a piece of spring disappears. So here's your challenge. Is being loud really the problem? Or is silence just easier for the rest of us to ignore? Because the lapwing doesn't tone it down to make others comfortable. It flaunts, it flips, it owns the moment. And maybe that's why we can't look away. In a world that whispers, "Stay small," the lapwing screams back, "Watch me fly." You ever see someone walk into a room so graceful it makes you question your own coordination? That's the common crane, the bird that makes elegance look effortless while we trip over our own shoelaces. Tall, silver gray, with a scarlet crown and wings that could shadow a small boat, the crane doesn't just move, it performs. When mating season hits Denmark's wetlands, pairs meet in open fields and break into a dance that would make ballet jealous. They leap, bow, toss grass in the air, and trumpet like a brass band in love. No music, no rehearsal, just instinct and chemistry. Mini debate hook. We pay money to learn communication skills, but these birds have been waltzing together for millions of years. No coach required. Their bond isn't just for the show. Once a pair connects, it's for life. They migrate together, raise chicks together, mourn together. It's loyalty dressed in feathers. And during migration, their calls echo across the sky, deep, vibrating cries that can travel miles. It's not just a sound, it's a feeling. Ancient cultures called it the voice of the soul. Here's the twist. Cranes have landing etiquette. When a flock descends after migration, they circle in elegant spirals, almost like a group bow after a performance. Even gravity looks like choreography. Fun fact, Denmark's cranes almost vanished in the 1900s, but returned as wetlands were restored. Now their spring dances are back, literal celebrations of survival. So yeah, they're not just dancers, they're comeback artists. Watch them in the golden light, long necks curved, wings spread like silk banners, eyes locked on each other. It's not just mating, it's meaning. So here's your challenge. If connection is a dance, are you showing up to the floor or still waiting for the right song? Because the common crane doesn't wait for perfect timing. It creates it. And when it leaps, you realize maybe elegance isn't about control at all. It's about letting go beautifully. Remember where we began? The barn owl, ghost of the night, silent as snowfall, deadly as thought. It's still here. Same moonlight, same empty fields, but the darkness around it feels different now. After cranes trumpeted, larks sang, and swans glided into dawn, the owl just drifts through the dusk, saying nothing, because it doesn't have to. Its face glows pale against the Danish night, a living echo between this world and whatever waits beyond it. Every wing beat is a whisper that power doesn't need to roar, and mystery doesn't need to explain itself. We flood our world with lights to push back the dark. But what if the dark was never the enemy? This ghostly hunter, once cursed as an omen of death, now stands as a symbol of renewal. Denmark's old barns and meadows were fading, and the barn owl almost vanished with them. But when people rebuilt nesting towers and restored the fields, the owls returned. Not with noise, but with grace. Fun fact, a barn owl's feathers are so soft they erase the sound of flight. It can dive inches from your ear, and you'd never hear it coming. Imagine being that precise, while we still trip over our own notifications. Watch it hover over the golden stubble fields. Heart-shaped face turned toward the wind, as if listening to secrets the night still keeps. That gaze, unblinking, unhurried, almost laughs at us. You chase everything that moves, it seems to say. But have you ever tried to listen? Because the owl doesn't conquer darkness, it moves within it. And when the light finally returns, it doesn't fade. It simply disappears into silence. So here's your final challenge. If the night whispered truth instead of fear, would you dare to hear it? The barn owl closes Denmark's story not with a scream, but with stillness. Because in the end, it's not the creatures that shout their power who endure. It's the ones who master the quiet and make it sing. And there you have it, 20 of Denmark's wildest wonders, from the whispering Tawny Owl to the trumpeting Whooper Swan, from the chaos of the Lapwing to the calm of the Mute Swan once more. A country so small, yet its skies sound like an orchestra that never learned to rest. Here, beauty hides in patience, power lives in silence, and joy doesn't need an audience. Each bird, a voice, a lesson, a reminder that nature doesn't rush, brag, or explain itself. It just is. Maybe that's the message buried in Denmark's cold wind and quiet lakes. You don't have to be the loudest to be unforgettable. You just have to show up, fully, fiercely, and true to your nature. So tell me, after everything you've seen, the songs, the hunts, the dances, which one stayed with you the most? The killer, the poet, or the silent king still gliding through the dusk? Because out here in the north, even the quiet ones still have something to say. You just have to listen.